Hey, it's your favorite mental health therapist, spiritual life coach, Reiki practitioner, Akashic record reader, etc., etc. And today we are doing a part 2 on our clairs. So if you checked out part 1, we talked about, clairs that are, they're psychic gifts that are considered psychosis in the mental health field. And again, this is all based upon, your beliefs. You don't have to believe in this. But if you would like to learn, stay tuned. So today we are talking about claircognizance and clairsentience. In part 1, we talked about clairvoyance and clairaudience. So what is clairsentience? Clairsentience is basically clear feeling. Now, some may say this is very empathic, which, yeah, it can be. But also, with clairsentience, you are able to feel those like touching you behind the veil. So like you can feel, your ancestor give you a kiss or a hug. But sometimes it's not always that pleasant because, negative energies can try to touch you too. And sometimes it can make you itch. It can make you scratch. And you're like, why am I scratching so much? Like, I don't have a rash. I don't have any skin conditions. What's going on? Why do I have all these itches? Why does it feel like bugs are crawling over me, or whatever the case may be? And yes, there is a spiritual meaning for itching, as I'm itching right now. And I'll talk about that in another video. And so, you are able to feel what is behind the veil, okay? And so some people may also feel dark energies such as an incubus and succubus or a reptilian trying to touch them inappropriately, if you get what I'm saying. Like you're not involved with the physical being at all. They're behind the veil, but you have a lot of supernatural touches going on where you don't want to tell anyone because you don't want anybody to think you're crazy. You're just like, wait a minute. I know I felt something. It didn't move on its own. No, you're not crazy. You're very highly sensitive. Okay. Now, of course, you rule out any medical conditions. Now, also, with clairsentience, you have, and everybody's clairsentient, everybody's clairs period can be in various degrees, okay? This is just a very general explanation here. And as previously stated, you can look these up yourself, okay? But I told you I did the research for you, so you wouldn't have to. Anyways. Certain people with this clairsentient gift, they can put their hand on an object, right? So let's say a person decides to go, in somebody's house or whatever the case may be, and they decide to put their hand on a lamp. Now, let's say this lamp has been around a lot of arguments. Let's say this lamp has been around a lot of emotions, right? This person is able to pick up information by touching the object. So for some of you guys, I don't know if you've ever heard, be mindful of the different objects that you take home because you never know what might be attached to it. That's a thing too. Energies can attach themselves to objects as well. And different energies such as arguing, negative energy, that can be attached onto objects too, where and in some cases when people do touch the object, their clairvoyance will kick in and they'll actually see an event that occurred around that object. Some people just may feel, and they wondering why, or if you put your hand on somebody's bracelet, be mindful of that. Because you can start picking up their energy too, or whatever they've been around as well. Okay. Now let's talk about claircognizance. That's all about clear knowing. And it has to do with your crown chakra here. And basically, it's how the divine, you could say downloads, channeled messages, whatever people, I've heard people use both. And it's how the divine imprints information to you. So let's say your spirit team, they want to say, okay, we need to try to tell them to do this or do that, to go to the store. So however they need to imprint that to you, they may say store, imprint, store, imprint, store. And then all of a sudden you wondering why you keep thinking about going to the store. All of a sudden you have an urge to go to the store. And, they may start making you have certain like flashbacks and memories of you being at a store. Okay. And then when you get to that store, there's somebody you met. All right. And you guys needed to have a much needed conversation. Or maybe you were looking for something and they gave you a download on a specific store. And those downloads can come in many different forms. Okay. They can come through any different type of clair that you have, but specifically claircognizantly, it shows up as a knowing. So for another example, someone may say, oh, such and such is at your door, or such and such is calling you. And they may not even know that your phone may not even be next to them. Like, how did you know that? I don't know. I just knew. Wait a minute. You were right. That person was at the door. How did you know that? I don't know. I just knew. They may not realize that if they're not tapped in or in tune, they have the gift of claircognizance. And like I said, claircognizance can show up in different ways. That's just a few. Okay. And when it comes to downloads and channeled messages, always know that, the divine, speaks to us through signs, symbols, and synchronicities. So when it comes to, downloads, they can give you songs, right? So like, why do I keep repeating this chorus over and over? Why do I keep repeating this certain verse over and over? That's a way that they're trying to communicate to you. And we'll also talk about telepathic communication too, because that is a thing. Again, this is for people who are spiritual and they believe in this metaphysical science. So for my Catholics, Christians, Protestants, Baptists, okay, this is not for you. All right. I've already been a Catholic. I chose not, to step outside of that. So keep your comments to yourself. But if you would like to learn, feel free to say. Sometimes, other downloads and channel messages can come in the form of, visuals. Okay. Kind of tapping back into clairvoyancy as well. Make sure you check out part 1 because we did go a little bit more in depth of the clairvoyance and the clairaudience. Okay. And, with the touching, when it comes to the clairsentience, sometimes that it can come off as a psychosis too to mental health professionals. Because remember, when it comes to mental health practitioners only, unless you have a mental health practitioner that's both a licensed professional counselor or a licensed clinical professional counselor and a metaphysical practitioner, they're only going to look at things from one perspective. They're not going to be able to give you this other information because they either don't believe in it, they're atheist, agnostic, they're only following that of which we've learned in, school for mental health, which that means your care is only going to be through that lens. People can benefit from a combination of integration of mental health therapy, okay, where you're still learning the different theoretical orientations. You are still getting an assessment. You have a treatment plan that is tailored to you. And if you don't want psychiatry or medication from your PCP, you can always reach out to a registered herbalist and take your paperwork to them so they can say, okay, these herbs can help with this diagnosis, this herbs can help with that diagnosis. And you can see a metaphysical practitioner for your other needs. Okay.